You have done everything right. The bath, the dim lights, the soft voice, the gentle rocking. You've been watching the window for 20 minutes. The yawning, the eye rubbing, the glazed look that tells you, this baby is ready. So you bring her to the crib, or settle into the chair, or begin the wind down you've done 100 times before. And then she wakes up. Not slowly, not gently. She arches her back. Her eyes go wide. She starts fussing, then crying, then escalating into something that sounds less like tiredness and more like she's just spotted a bear in the corner of the room. The very baby who was drooping in your arms 60 seconds ago is now, somehow, more alert than she's been all afternoon. If you've lived this scene, and most parents of infants have lived it many times, you probably already know the particular flavor of exhaustion that comes with it. It's not just the tiredness of being up late. It's the confusion, the slight helplessness, the quiet voice in the back of your head asking, why is she doing this? And the answer most people land on is a simple one. She doesn't want to sleep. She's fighting it, resisting, holding out. Maybe she's stubborn. Maybe she's been spoiled by too much holding. Maybe she just needs to learn. Maybe, and this is the version that tends to feel worst, you're doing something wrong, and that's why it keeps happening. These explanations are understandable. They make surface sense, but they are also, in most cases, missing almost everything important about what's actually happening. Let's start with the most common misreading, because it's the one that does the most damage, both to parents and to the way they respond in the moment. The idea that a baby who fights sleep is being deliberately resistant treats this as a behavioral problem, a will problem, a choice, as if the baby has looked at the situation, weighed her options, and decided, no, I'd rather not. Babies in the first year of life are not doing that. They are not capable of doing that. What they are doing is something far less intentional and far more physiological. They are caught inside a transition their nervous system doesn't yet know how to navigate smoothly on its own. Sleep, for an infant, is not a simple off switch. It is a neurological and physiological shift, a significant reorganization of the body and brain moving from one state to another. And for a nervous system that is still immature, that transition is genuinely hard. It requires a kind of internal coordination that babies are only just beginning to develop. They cannot, in the early months, simply decide to let go and fall asleep the way an adult can decide to sit down and rest. So when you see a baby fighting sleep, what you are most likely watching is not defiance. It is a brain and body that are exhausted, but not yet organized enough to get themselves across the threshold. Here is where it gets counterintuitive. And this is the part that changes everything. When a baby becomes overtired, when the window for sleep is missed, when the stimulation of the day has been building too long without a break, the very tiredness that should be pulling her towards sleep can start working against her. An overtired baby is not simply a sleepy baby who needs a few more minutes. An overtired baby is a baby whose system has been activated past the point where rest comes easily. The body has been running long enough that it begins to respond to the overload in a way that looks, from the outside, like alertness, like energy, like she's somehow gotten a second wind. She hasn't. What's happening is closer to the opposite. She's dysregulated. She's past the threshold where her nervous system can organize itself back into calm without significant help. And the crying, the arching, the apparent refusal to settle. These are not protests against sleep. They are the sounds and movements of a system that is genuinely struggling to come down. This is one of the cruelest ironies of infant sleep. The more tired the baby is, the harder the transition can become. And the harder the transition becomes, the more it looks like the baby doesn't want to sleep, when what she actually cannot do, in that moment, is get there alone. There's another layer underneath this, and it's the one that tends to be most invisible. Babies this age are also navigating something relational at bedtime. Sleep means separation. Even if the baby is staying in the same room, falling asleep means a kind of letting go, of the parent's presence, of the wakefulness that keeps connection alive. of the sensory world that includes the people she depends on most. And for a baby who is already overstimulated or emotionally activated, that letting go can feel like too much to ask. This is where attachment comes in. In the first year of life, a baby's attachment system, her whole orientation toward the people who keep her safe, is not something that simply switches off at bedtime. It is very much present, and at the moment when the environment is going quiet, and the day is ending, and the familiar comfort of wakefulness is being removed, that attachment system can become more active, not less. The protest at sleep time, in this light, is not always purely physical. Sometimes it carries an emotional undercurrent. Don't go, stay close, I'm not sure I can do this without you. That's not manipulation. That's an attachment system doing exactly what it was designed to do, seeking proximity to the caregiver when the world feels uncertain. And sleep, for an infant who is already dysregulated, can feel very uncertain indeed. So what is this behavior actually protecting? In some ways, it's protecting the baby's sense of safety during a genuinely difficult state transition. It's protecting connection at the moment when connection is about to become less available. It's keeping the nervous system in a state of alertness when it doesn't yet feel safe enough, or regulated enough, to let go. None of that is conscious. None of it is calculated. The baby is not running a strategy. She is responding to the felt sense of her own internal state. And that state, when she's overtired and overstimulated and emotionally activated, is one where the body's answer to threat is to stay awake and stay loud. Not because she's stubborn, but because her system doesn't yet know another way through. So what should you actually be watching for in real life? First, pay attention to timing. One of the most practically useful things to notice is what happened in the hours before the sleep struggle. Was it a stimulating day? Lots of visitors? Noise, lights, activity, excitement? These things accumulate. A baby who seems perfectly fine at 4 p.m. may be carrying a full nervous system load by 7 p.m. that has nothing obvious to do with bedtime itself, but everything to do with how she gets there. Second, watch for the moment the window starts. Most babies in this age range have a window of readiness, a time when tiredness is present, but the system hasn't yet tipped into overload. Catching that window, even if it's earlier than expected, can change the whole experience. A baby who is tired but not yet overtired is in a different state than one who's been pushed past the threshold. The first transition is hard. The second can be much harder. Third, notice what helps her come down. Does she settle more quickly in your arms, with a particular sound or rhythm, in a quieter, darker environment? These patterns are information. They tell you something about what her nervous system is responding to, and what conditions support the transition she can't yet make alone. Fourth, and this is the one that matters for the relationship, notice how you feel in those moments. If bedtime has become a source of dread, anxiety, or frustration, that is real, and it deserves acknowledgement. An exhausted, tense caregiver and an overstimulated, dysregulated baby in the same room at 8 p.m. is genuinely hard. Understanding what's happening in the baby's nervous system doesn't make it easier exactly, but it can change the frame. And changing the frame can change what you bring into the room with you. A note on when to pay closer attention, without alarm. Sleep struggles in the first year are common. They are not automatically a sign that anything is wrong. But if a baby consistently seems impossible to settle despite calm environments and predictable routines, if sleep difficulties are accompanied by signs of persistent discomfort, arching, gastrointestinal distress, unusual crying patterns outside of sleep time, it is reasonable to mention it to a pediatrician. Not because fighting sleep is a diagnosis, but because sometimes persistent dysregulation has a physical component worth ruling out. In the vast majority of cases, what you're dealing with is developmental, but you're allowed to ask questions. Here's the practical turn. Understanding this behavior doesn't give you a magic fix. What it gives you is a more accurate map. And a more accurate map means you stop spending energy on the wrong problem. The baby fighting sleep is not a baby who needs discipline, or a lesson in self-sufficiency, or a firm boundary held by an exhausted parent at 9 p.m. She is a baby whose nervous system is struggling with a real transition, who may need less stimulation earlier in the day, a calmer runway into the sleep window, and a co-regulating presence that helps her system come down when she can't bring it down on her own. That's not a parenting hack. That's just what's actually true about what she needs. And the last thing, the next time you're in that room with the dim light and the soft sound and the baby who is clearly, undeniably exhausted, but still somehow escalating, try to hold this. She is not fighting you. She is not fighting sleep because she's stubborn or willful or spoiled. She is fighting sleep because her system is genuinely struggling to get there, and the only tool she has for communicating that struggle is exactly what you're hearing. That cry is not defiance. It is a nervous system asking for help getting across a threshold it cannot cross alone yet. You are not failing at putting her to sleep. You are the thing that makes it possible. If this helped you see bedtime differently, you might want to stay with this next question. Why do some babies need to be held to fall asleep? And what that need might actually be telling you about how they're built to learn comfort. That's the next video.